And so if you're looking at overall risk and assessment, you're going to want to be present with your animal when they go out to do their business. And a fence isn't high enough for animals that can climb. So reactive versus proactive, again, be prepared with the education and knowing what attracts wildlife to your property. You can't have a bird feeder and you know that birds of prey are going to peg off the birds and then be angry or fearful because coyotes and fox and raccoons and possum and skunks are going and feeding under that bird feeder. You don't get to choose in nature because the food's there. It's like going through McDonald's. It's an easy pickings and it's an easy meal, easy calories for these animals. And so being flexible and being able to look at each community on its own merit. Some folks can't afford to have better garbage bins. When you look at the northern communities, some of those bins are pretty costly. And so even, looking at time change, looking at how you handle your garbage. Raccoons are great. Coyotes will follow the raccoons because raccoons will pull the garbage bin down, open up the garbage, eat a little bit, move on, and then coyote can come in. So can fox, so can skunk, and whatever else animals are in that community. And so they have quite an interesting relationship too. We have video cams that we use all the time. The video cameras never tell a story, they only tell the fact. And so we'll put trail cams up at different locations when we're trying to figure out what's taking place, whether it's farm, ranch, or residential area. And so alpha is everything. You take that pair out, you've opened that landscape up, you've created chaos in the community. And when we have our sightings, so later on I'm going to show you a map that we use to identify what's taking place, but you're seeing same animals in the same territory. Unless, of course, you're killing the coyotes off year after year, then you never know who that resident family is, and you're at a disadvantage. And so the ecology, they co-parent, and gestation is 62 to 63 days. They're going to choose a den that's safe, and a lot of times it can be an old groundhog hole. They have several dens that are available, depending on the location, but we've had some desperate parents that have actually gone under people's decks, so that's why we encourage you to fill up and seal off your deck. And because a coyote chooses underneath your deck to have their litter, there's always ways to discourage them, and we are available. You can always contact us, and we can deal with that. So their pups are fully weaned at around 6 weeks of age. When they're born, they're blind. They're completely dependent on their mom and dad. And so that's when that dad is out there working really hard to bring the food back for the mom. And the father and mother regurgitate food, so they're chomp, chomp, chomping, and you see the little coyotes and the fox kids, they nibble at the mouth, and that creates this regurgitation motion, and they have that food kind of partially digested for them. And so they need their parents to teach them how to be coyote. Fox need their parents to teach them how to be fox. You remove the parents, they're not going to have those life skills. And I don't know if you can see, I'm going to go up here, move around. So this is a female coyote in the den. I had been doing field work for a documentary, and I thought she had left, but it was actually the mate had left, and I was up. I wanted to see how many, if their pups had been born, and how many there were. Anyway, I'm right there. The mouth of the den is there, and I'm here. I mean, it's not something that I'm proud of, because I would never want to stress her out like that. She couldn't get out of there fast enough. And of all the years that I've been doing this work, and I've been around coyotes with babies, injured, mange, very, very sick, hit by a car, I've never met the coyote that you see on TV, or you go on Facebook, social media. And I've handled many, many coyotes, and I've weighed thousands of dead coyotes. Handled them, weighed them, took DNA sampling. So this is the way that they are. But they're not going to be that way with your domestic dog going after them. So if your domestic dog went up to the mouth of that den with pups inside, that mom or dad is going to defend her family. So they are fossorial in nature, which means they like to be in the ground. Some of our dogs, even now, when the storm comes, they want to dig, they want to go underneath. And in the stable territories, they could have roughly average 6 pups, but we had one family with 12. But remember, out of that 12, over half of them are going to be dead that first year. So it's pretty risky business, and you might see a lot of pups, but remember something, mortality rate is pretty high. Vehicles, humans first and vehicles second. And so this is a lovely alpha pair from Vermont, and this is Mira and Mark. And if you can see here, she actually chewed her paw off to get out of a trap. They've been together for almost 5 years, and he pretty much feeds her. She gets around really well, but it's probably pretty painful. So he often will bring her food. So that's the other thing. You want lethal? This is what you could get. And so, you know, even if, you know, things are done legally, you don't know how things are going to turn out for these animals. And so this pair lives on a farm. They have cattle and they have sheep. And they've never had an issue with this pair. So I think, again, it's hard when you're looking at how do we handle this? How do we meet the challenge of coyotes in the community? This is a sweet picture. Their eyes just open, but their ears aren't quite up all the way. And they are completely reliant on mom and dad at this point. And so actually, she's the mom. She had 12 pups right in the center of Burlington, Ontario. It was amazing because she would go along the shoreline and hang out on decks. They are resilient and curious and adaptive hunters. That is a typical rendezvous site up on a hill, and mom and dad are off, and the birds aren't too happy that they're there and they're attacking them. And so that's what we would say is a situation where folks might think that you know, the pups have been abandoned, but they haven't. So they're opportunistic, which means that they'll take advantage of wide variety, insects, fruits, eggs. They are adaptable, they're intelligent, and they're resourceful. So if you're feeding them, they're going to know that, and they're going to keep coming back. And especially for farmers and ranchers, you know, cleaning up the dead stock. We have laws in Ontario because you have to handle your dead stock. You've got to either bury it, you can incinerate it, or you get it hauled off. It's pretty expensive, so it can be a real challenge for our farming families to deal with that kind of thing. So the only problem is then you've got cattle maybe having calves out in the field, they're making sounds, the placenta's there, and it just starts a process over and over. And they have excellent smell and keen eyesight, and that's a typical dance of the coyote, the mousing gesture. And depending on where they're living, their diet is going to consist 70 to 80% rodents. Can you imagine the ticks they're eating? I mean, that's really amazing. They don't need our handouts. If you've got a coyote that's injured or distressed or has been hit by a car, maybe has signs of mange, we can get that animal help. And there's 3 from the same family, and that's a territory right in Niagara Falls. Infrastructure change pushed all the rodents into a small field. Red-tailed hawk and the snowy owl also used to feed in that field. So they do us a great service. They keep insect populations down, the rodents, and they eat the carrion, as you will see in that picture. Now that guy, he was one of my faves, and I followed him for about 4.5 hours, and I knew that that deer had been hit by the train, and so did he. That deer was completely gone in 3 days. And I followed him. I was up on a railway bridge, I wasn't there 8 seconds, and he knew I was there, and the wind was not blowing his way. They're so in tune and so keen and really connected to the land. And we can learn a lot from them about ourselves and about our own community. So we need them to clean up that stuff. And so let's say, for example, you have, you know, you're hunting and you're dressing the deer in the field, out in the bush. Coyotes know that because crows, turkey vultures, all sorts of animals are alerting them to that. Plus they get to know where the deer blinds are. And they're going to clean up that carrion out in the bush too, right? So they serve a good purpose. So when we talk about conflict in the community, we want to look for the hot spots. Hot spots are usually where we are, of course, right? We're the common denominator too. A lot of what we do, our behavior, can draw coyotes into an area. So your park, your trail systems, any green spaces, dog walking areas, you know, backyard if your bird feeders aren't being maintained properly. I mentioned about the farmlands. Also here, I don't know about this, your roadkill. Is that picked up?
Typically.
Yeah, typically it's picked up.
It's
so where we're from, Amy and I, the roadkill's picked up and then it's put in an area that's fenced off. So no animals can get to it. But some places, it's just left and dumped in a pile. Well, that's going to be an attractant for coyotes too. And, pardon me?
I think it's rarely picked up over here. I see dead roadkill all over the place.
You typically have to
So,
call.
okay, but look at what a great observation. So, first of all, whoever's responsible, you know, you
Well, it's the
can,
highway department,
is it?
and it's low on the list because they gotta get plowing first and repair guide rails, things like that. And then the carry and pickup is kind of low on the list. That's why they don't get to it right away.
So, but you know what, folks, in, you know, the way things work in a community, sometimes it takes a little bit of negotiation. If there is a lot of roadkill, first of all, that's an indication that there's a draw. Is it a natural corridor for these animals to be crossing over? Is it an old road system or is this a new infrastructure? So you have to look at all those variables. If it's new, then that's old travel corridor. But if it's old and these animals are going back and forth, I would say that there's a draw. And so a lot of times that's an indication that maybe, you know, you have to kind of look at your property. Do you need to tighten things up a little bit? But if the roadkill is left, animals are going to come out to feed on that too. And you know, it's not a pleasant thing to say. Once a family pet in nature, they don't know that your family pet is loved, and it's a beloved being in your family. Once a family pet dies and it's in the landscape, that animal becomes part of the food it's carrying. Every species of animal in our community is maybe going to look at that animal as a food source. So a lot of times when an animal has perished, if it's a bird of prey or it's been hit by a car, we often hear cats go missing, cats get poisoned, vehicles, all sorts of risks when you let your pets roam free outside by themselves, even during the day. But once that cat is injured and crawls off and dies on its own, it becomes part of that food chain. And it's pretty traumatic for folks to see a partially consumed animal. So the hotspot investigation, so what that would entail, we go to a location, and so great commentary about the roadkill not being picked up. So you have to look at all the goings on in the community. Why is this happening? So we've got a high volume of roadkill. Something's taking place. Do the investigation. Nicole and Dave, and there's lots of volunteers, I'm sure, that could go out. Maybe you folks, somebody that's out in the bush all the time, knows something, and you look at that location. Sometimes it could be fencing. We have redirected coyotes out of an area using fencing. So infrastructure changes, culverts are built, fences are put up. People say to me all the time, Leslie, we didn't have coyotes, and I've been living here 30 years. You had coyotes, you didn't see them, but now that the fencing is up, they've got to go and expose themselves and travel around. And so there's a lot of things that are hard to remember. What changes take place, if it's impacting you, and you have to go all the way around, it's impacting the wildlife too. And so garbages, barbecues, if you're leaving that oil pan underneath, that's deadly too. Your dog feces will attract rats, which attracts coyotes. And so if you're looking at doing that wildlife species inventory on your property and wildlife proofing, look at your own place first. And then when you go out into the green spaces, if you see folks feeding the wildlife, you should make a note of that. You know, hand them a brochure, talk to city officials, because feeding the wildlife is going to encourage coyotes to come around to you. And they're going to expect that same food. And for the folks that are involved in feral cat programs, it's always part of the community. There's wonderful, compassionate people that want to help animals. And so we encourage, because we have some issues with some feral cat colonies because the food isn't being put down and picked up. And so coyote every day regularly comes in, especially the one that has an injured paw regularly coming in and eating that food. So we encourage that to be picked up. So doing the field work is essential to get to the truth. We can guess and surmise all we want. And without actually getting out and doing the research and doing the investigation, you know, we come to conclusions that are not based on fact, and a lot of times they're based on emotion or fear. And so, for example, that's a location where there's heavy poaching going on of deer. And so most of the coyote scat there has deer hair in it, but we have also found carcasses with bullet wounds and so forth. So it's important to get the evidence. So, hazing. How many of you know what hazing is? Hands up. Hazing 101. And it's not for the university graduating class. That is a fancy term for aversion conditioning. And so, as I said, I alluded to earlier, I've been, kind of chasing coyotes for over 2 decades. And doesn't matter if it's 7, 5, 4. The most I've ever hazed is 7 at one time. And they were kind of confused because they thought actually I was going to bring them food, but then when they realized I was kind of angry at them, they dispersed. But so it's not a new technique. We have done it with tigers. We've done it with bears. My colleague discusses how to haze bears too. The hazing techniques are lifelong tools. So it's not something that you're going to do once in a while. You're going to do it all the time, but everybody has to be doing the same thing, and it has to be consistent. And so if you're inside your house and you've been putting food out for some squirrels and so forth, and a coyote happens to start visiting your yard, and you're yelling from inside the house, it's not going to mean anything in coyote world. Your voice is there, but there's a house there. It's used to the house. You step outside the house, and you have some pots or whatever you want to bring to make a lot of noise, then it works. So hazing reshapes behavior, but we have to reshape ours too. If we're hazing and we think that we're going to haze and still continue on feeding or letting our dogs off leash in areas where there's ordinances that say we shouldn't, and coyotes are annoyed because your dog came near the den or chased the pups and then shadows you, you need to know what to do to discourage that behavior. So coyotes are quick learners, usually. So my truck is known by all my coyote families. They see my truck and they run. But what I want is when they see other people that they're leaving. But there's places to haze a coyote and not to haze. But hazing in and of itself is not enough. It's part of a comprehensive coexistence program because it's one tool in the toolkit of coexistence. So I mentioned to you before about this case study, famous family, Gus and Shy. we were doing some research for the University of Toronto, and we had trail cams set up. This lovely couple, he was a hunter, she was an animal advocate, and they loved this coyote family with 5 pups living in the center of Niagara Falls. So they had been hazed. I showed them how to haze. I was up north moose tracking, and Gus and Shy, I guess Gus was feeling the pressure. There was 5 mouths to feed, so they were hazing, but you see how this grass is cut? That's 4 out of the 5 pups there. So Donna, the woman of the house, she would chase Gus only so far, and then she'd stop because their bush was there and there was ticks in there. So she would stop, and Gus learned quickly to just wait till she turned around, and then he'd bolt by her to cross the busy road to get to the golf course to go hunting. So he used to only come out when nobody was there, but they also had 2 dogs. And so it was getting a little bit testy. So they called me, I was up north, they said, Les, he's getting bold. He's coming out in the day, the hazing isn't working. And I said, well, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm on the lawnmower, the riding lawnmower, and Gus bolts right by me. And I says, well, did you shut the machine off? No, I did not. I says, did you get off? You shut it off and get off. No. And I said, okay, so as soon as he hears the lawnmower, he knows he can bolt by. So in the meantime, I mean, it was a calamity, and they were just wonderful people. So in the meantime, they had stolen, Gus and Shy stole the family's dog's toys, gave them to the pups. So as you can see here, and he also used to go fishing, took the bobber, but the balls, and the dogs knew. So there were some issues there too. They're thieves, but they're so intelligent. They encourage, that play is essential. It's life skill. Their play is building tactile, building muscle, building relationship, but it's also survival. So this is a video I'm going to show you. So this is their backyard. This is the area where Donna would chase Gus a little bit with her baseball bat, but then stop because the ticks were there. And so Gus regularly, that's him there, he would run across, go across the busy road, and go to the golf course. That's all he wanted to do. And the dog, they had a really alpha kind of female. She was probably about 85 pounds. They actually had a run-in, and Gus arched his back and hissed. Never went after the dog, but the dog wanted to go after Gus, and he never attacked the dog. So this is when they said, you know what, it's not working. So I'm going to show you the video. Now bear in mind, John was very excited because Gus was coming by the pool, and I'd been waiting there a few hours, and he's shaking. Sometimes it's black, the screen goes black, but you'll see Gus. I came out the front door, Gus saw me and immediately bolted to the right, and I'm running with my rubber boots on. So we'll try this. Is Jim in the audience? Where's Jim? Because I'm worried about putting this thing on. But you have to watch because Gus, actually in a 32-second clip, he looked at me 9 times to see if I was going to stop and turn around like Donna. So smart, right? So we'll try this. I hope it works. Because if it doesn't, I'm going to have to get Jim down here. Everybody laughs at that. I don't know why. Those are empty plastic water bottles to really send that mean message. So you can't see it, but Donna's waiting there with the baseball bat. What are you going to do with that? Anyways, so beyond this fence line, that was actually a rendezvous site. So I was kind of doing a double whammy. I thought if the pups were in there, and I was crinkling those empty water bottles. So you never want to hurt an animal, and they're pretty harmless, but they make really awful sounds. You know, when you're hazing, you can pick up clumps of dirt, sticks, whatever, but your voice and your gesturing is the best thing to use. And so they only had to haze Gus 2 more times. John was on the lawnmower, he went bolting by again, John got off and had his stuff ready to whip at Gus. That's how quickly Gus learned. So Gus waited when there was no human or no dogs in the yard. And so I'm 128 pounds, and that's a big boy. He was about 38 pounds. And so you will hear stories about weights of coyotes, and I've weighed lots. The average weight of an eastern coyote is going to be around 36 to 38 pounds. You always get extreme. You might have a rare one, but if you're getting up 70, 80 pounds, that is not a coyote, and you're not going to have wolves here. So they look larger than life. Now let's pray that this goes to the next slide. Yes. Okay. So to haze or not to haze, if coyotes are out hunting, they don't need to be hazed. If you see a coyote in a distance, your dog's on a leash, don't worry about it. But keep it in the back of your mind. If the coyote starts coming closer and closer and closer, is it pup rearing time? Is it breeding time? Has your dog chased that coyote in the past? Because they have good memories just like our dogs, our domestic dogs do. So, you know, if your dog has chased that coyote and injured it, there's going to be an issue. So, you know, in that kind of scenario, no. Parking lots, yes. Airports, obviously. Actually, the U.S. has a great, one of the airports, I think in Arlington, they've got a non-lethal program now going on for wildlife proofing for coyotes and dogs. So,
Aren't some of the airports actually encouraging them to chase the geese away?
So, partly yes and partly no. Because those geese, if they're doing what they should be, those geese shouldn't be anywhere near there, right? If they're letting the grass grow in some places, but I know in New York, they actually had, they killed off that, I think there was 7 in a family, and they weren't anywhere near where the landing strip was. So you can even put up a billboard of a coyote and it can discourage geese. But if you let the grass grow, that helps. But I don't know, because I don't think Arlington is using
Well,
that.
I thought the one, the end of the runway went into a marsh, so they, you know, the geese were there and they were walking in. So what it was is that they were flying out of the marsh and
Yes.
then getting hit. So they were trying to say, okay, we'll say okay to the predators, not bring them in, but say okay to keep the geese population down.
So that's a way of dealing with another issue, right? So you use the predators. Airport in Niagara Falls, Canada, they had sightings. The coyotes know to get off the runway, but based on the risk assessment, so they're dealing at a different level of risk assessment, and they were going to bring a sharpshooter in. But the issue for them was they were not really giving a consistent message to the coyotes where it was acceptable for them to be and where not. Some days, if it wasn't busy, they allowed them to bed down closer to the runway. And so, you know, we have to really be careful what messages we're sending. And so, hard again to see, folks. Sorry about these. So, a lot of these pictures are actual real life. We're not running around with a fancy camera. We're out doing field work. And so, a lot of times, we're snapping pictures in the moment. So, this is Sindabad at midnight. That's a rendezvous site in the daytime. And that's a very, actually, pretty busy area. Niagara Parks building is there. There's residential areas there. So it wouldn't be appropriate, but if you're walking your dog off leash and they're there just lying down minding their own business, there could be a problem there. And this mated pair had been together for almost 6 years. Okay, so hazing them here would be inappropriate too. But if you have your dog on a leash, you have nothing to worry about because they're not interested in you. So, If you're out walking with a small dog or a child and a coyote happens to come on the pathway, first of all, you don't want to scream, and I know it's hard, but you have to practice because screaming sounds like an injured animal, and they might want to come closer to see what is that sound. We call this a high five for safety. We teach this to kids and adults alike. So, coyote's there, you stop, stand still, it gives you a chance to kind of take that deep breath and say, okay, here we go. Then you shout and wave your arms, no screaming. And if you know, so I suggest too, in your community, you start building that catalog. All of our coyotes we know by morphology, which means that there's no coyote that looks alike. And so we take photographs, we have residents that help, volunteers that help. They build that inventory on who these families are. And so that way you know, is it the same coyote or is it another one that's moved in? Shouting and waving your arms, you're very big, and kids are really great at this too. And if you're in coyote territory, you can have other items which I'll show you in a second. You never turn and run away from any canid, domestic or wild. How many of you have been chased by a dog, domestic dog? Yeah, hands are going up. How many of you have been chased by a coyote? Okay, but how many of you have been bit by a domestic dog? Hands up. Or know somebody? Right. So it's instinct. They're hardwired to do that. And if it's a young juvenile coyote, they might think that you're playing. Especially if you've allowed your dog to play with coyotes, and it's not uncommon. We have a lot of cases where people actually allow their dogs. We have a family of 3 in Niagara Falls, and I know 5 different families that allow their dogs to play with the coyotes. Slowly back away, because you don't want to turn and run. You don't want to turn your back, right? Especially if you have a dog. You need that dog, keep close. Share the experience, talk about it. Don't exaggerate. Don't talk about it and not add the facts. So was your dog off a leash? Okay, say so. The dog was off a leash, but you put the dog on. What happened? What did the coyote do? Did the coyote follow you out? That's called escorting. So you want to make note of what the coyote is doing. Okay? And teach that to your children and your grandkids. Never run from a dog and never go near a dog. Tools for hazing. As I said, your voice is the best. Your body is the best, but not everyone's comfortable doing that. Not everyone's going to chase coyotes like I do, but we do training workshops for folks, police officers included. We actually get calls and I get dispatched and I talk the officers through different scenarios. So I'm going to use my big person voice now. So it's pretty easy. This also works with a black bears. You wouldn't use this with grizzlies, of course, but you're out in the bush anyway. You're walking around with your dog. You love this community. It's beautiful. If you know that there's garbage around in the area, or if people are feeding, and you want to move that food out, don't ever leave food on a trail because be a good neighbor. Somebody's coming in after you, and maybe another coyote's going to be coming in there. So be a good neighbor. If you see food on the trail, bag it, make a note of it. Communicate with each other. This is the worst sound to a coyote. Ooh, I can't even stand myself. It's annoying to me. Great thing, get your kids to do that. It works with bears and it works with coyotes. It works with dogs. It works with my daughter. But you can fill this here with garbage too, right? Starts to rain, great to have. You can do school projects or a craft activity, pop can, fill with coins or nuts and bolts. Wrap foil around it, that could be a shake can. This is annoying. Who wants to hear that? You can lift that towards the coyote and it works. Okay? And it's great for kids. A gum, you know those gum containers with gum in them? You can bring that on a walk and it's annoying. And coyotes aren't going to be used to that. Best tool, I mean, it serves for double purpose, right? But little kids, this is fantastic. But this
suggestion. Coyotes don't see that. That's why the umbrella's so good. I'm not a fan of whistles for a couple of reasons. However, that doesn't mean that you cannot use a whistle. Each coyote has a different food education. So if it's first time around, or if that coyote is used to being on the trail, or let's say, for example, somebody with a knapsack, they see the knapsack go off the back, you put your hand in, you feed, that's conditioning the coyote to the knapsack. So maybe Amy wasn't feeding, but Amy's walking through the park with her knapsack. Well, I'm just going to do what I can, and I'm going to want some food. Whistles are okay if you're in an area in the bush where they're not going to be hearing that, but in a cityscape, you've got soccer fields, baseball, lots of noise. In an urban environment, they hear machinery, they hear radios, they hear laughter, they hear screaming and arguing, they hear all sorts of stimuli. So maybe one coyote family is going to respond well to this. Maybe you're going to do this, but they're available to you. And if, you have that plastic bag. But remember, if they just stop and stare at you, you have to be assertive. I don't care, whip it towards the coyote. You don't want to hit it, or whip it towards the coyote. But if you have your dog, and you're out there and you want to haze, that dog has to be right here, or up here if it's a small dog. Because all coyote sees is the dog. They don't care about you, unless you can feed them. And then they're going to shower you and escort you and all sorts of things. But pans, water hoses, whatever is working. But don't yell from inside your house. Right? So, coyotes in the family pet, I've been saying this throughout the whole thing. If you allow your dogs to chase wildlife, first of all, they're expending energy they don't have. So your dog's getting 3 squares a day. And I know we all want to let our dogs run loose. I have rescue dogs. That's all I've ever had. And mine is so hyper, I want to let him go. I have bush land. I let him go because he stays with me. I have to keep him on a leash when I'm around in Niagara Falls. And you folks need to do. If you've got leash bylaws or ordinances here, you have to obey them. And by the way, we were at a park, and I'm not going to say who or what dogs or whatever, but there was a person walking the dogs off the leash in the park where it says have a leash, and there's coyotes there. So who's at fault? We can change that, though. If you're one of those folks that likes to do it, I'm asking you, begging you, please don't. Make the good decision for your family pet, because I know you love them. Busy time for wildlife, they're expanding. They're going to defend their pups. So keep your dog on a leash, and things will be really, really good. So this is a prime example.
Better. Prime example, could be an encounter or it could be a conflict. If a dog is off the leash, this is a rendezvous site. You can see the vehicle parked on the right. This is in Burlington, Ontario, right down the city. So having your dog off a leash would not be a great idea here. And so that mom is leaving those pups there until she comes back with food. And so again, not abandoned at all. So dogs off leash. One of those is mine. The Rottweiler on the left. And that's my friend's dog. So if you have your dog on a leash and the coyote is following you, but keeping a distance, that's what we refer to as that escorting or shadowing. They're making sure you're getting out of there because maybe there's a den close by. Maybe the pups are at their rendezvous site, which could be in a bush area. So, where's my little trusty? Oh yes, here we go. Would you do me the honors and pull this cord out, please? Yeah. There's that extended leash. A lot can happen with that leash. So you got your dog on that leash, and there's bush area. Mom and Dad might have left the pups. There could be something bad in the bush, you don't know, maybe poison, maybe some toxic food. This is really dangerous. You don't have control. I know I don't. When my boy's on the end of this leash, this is my husband's thing, I bring this all the time because I don't use this leash. It's a lot of opportunity for conflict right here. So, you're walking your dog, walking is walking is walking. He's gonna do, he or she's gonna do their business regardless of the size of the leash. But this is not a great thing. And I know it's not good news for some folks that really rely on them, but because a lot can happen. And they're not close by you. That extended leash at the end, coyote's gonna zoom in on that dog. They don't care about you. They're not interested in you. They're interested in the dog. Dogs are competition for food. They're a danger to pups. They're a risk, and they're also a threat to the mate. Coyotes are not running around eating dogs, but they'll kill a dog because of those issues. And once you start feeding coyotes in a territory, that territory has now become theirs, and your dog is competition for that food. And that's why you don't want to be feeding the dogs. Okay? So looking at co-flourishing in your community, nature literacy, my gosh, can you believe that artwork out there? I'm loving that artwork. To me, when you can engage young kids, and at the local level, the artists, and there's some adults that have contributed too. Just fantastic. And I appreciate that. Co-flourishing in the community, the Living with Coyotes program, we're going to breeze through that. Also, rehabilitation. We have a pretty special guest in the audience, and I got to find out where she is. Elise, where are you? Right there. So, a couple of you folks are rehabilitators. Elise Abel, stand up, my dear. She will be able to, she's the lifeline actually for Nicole and Dave and for the other organizations. She has the knowledge and the wherewithal and the ability, if you have an injured, if you have a coyote that has severe mange or a fox, but you need to talk to her first because, like I said, those rendezvous sites, she will help you through that. And so it's really important when you're looking at Living with Coyotes program that you have somebody, you start that networking for that help, okay? So when I first started this work, there was no, thanks, please. Oh, yes. Thanks for coming. Coyotes that had mange died. There was no assistance. Ivermectin is beautiful. It works. Coyotes, fox, so many animal species now that can get, skin conditions, mites. There is assistance for them. So that's the next step in a program. Citizen science and the media alerts, working with your newspaper, making sure that the information is accurate and not sensational and putting fear into the community. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the wildlife. It doesn't help you. And so coyote wellness and behavior. If they are injured or sick, that's going to change their behavior too, right? You might have a coyote bedding down in a barn with your horses that has severe mange. We see that all the time. Case study, underneath leaves. Leaves produce heat, and the coyotes are hiding under there. They might go underneath your deck where there's a release of heat. So you might see a change of behavior, social structure and bonding. So if you're lethally removing that family, that's also going to impact the coyote behavior. And so the energy easy foods, if you're feeding coyotes, they're going to seek that energy easy food. And you don't want that. They have to survive. If there's not enough food for them, then they're not going to survive. And as harsh and as realistic as that is, when you feed coyotes, or any species really, you're actually increasing the carrying capacity of that landscape. And so they become dependent, right? Their natural foraging behaviors are impacted. And you don't want that. So, I'd mentioned earlier, this is a gorgeous eastern coyote navigating through a busy city street. Chicago, over 2,000 coyotes. Toronto, pushing up there. They navigate, they teach their offspring how to cross busy roads, and so they're great at that. And they're very, very efficient movers. So whatever's happening in the landscape is happening to coyote. Hey, what are we looking at here time-wise? Yeah, okay. Talking about the behaviors influencing the rodenticides, there's a lot of talk now about how toxic they are for rodents and stuff. You know, we've got to have better ways of dealing with it because it cascades down through, and the symptoms of these chemicals, it's treacherous, and mange is one of those symptoms because the immune system of canids and felines is impacted. And then you've got birds of prey eating the rats and rodents too that have the poison.
Les,
So-
you're at an hour and 10 minutes right now.
Oh, okay, you gotta go. That's Kitchy, the three-legged wolf, who traveled over 100 kilometers and then his radio collar fell off. He was snared, and they saved him and rehabbed him, and off he went up north. So the Living with Coyotes program, we address communication, diet, it's a keystone species, and without recognizing that as a keystone species, we're not going to protect what we don't understand. And so the keystone species is that ecothermometer in the community. So developing those lifelong partnerships, whether it's with real estate companies, rehabilitation, wildlife organizations, some of the naturalists, maybe there's hunting organizations that are here working together because all stakeholders are needed to have effective coexistence. And our program has 4 cornerstones: the investigation, prevention, education, and enforcement. Bylaws and ordinances are no good if they're not enforced. And so a lot of times we can put a little bit of pressure on for the bylaws to be enforced about the dogs being off leash. And so with our Living with Coyotes program, we include hotline. We have also a mapping system. We have internet where you can call in, and you can also report your coyote sighting. And so to have effective coexistence, you have to have that hierarchy for response. Who's going to respond? Is it volunteers? Is it law enforcement? Is it animal control? Is it wildlife specialists? So each community has those different frontline responders. So for us in the city of Niagara Falls, it's us, the police, the Humane Society, and city bylaw. And it has to be flexible. And so when you're identifying and mitigating where to put out those hazing crews, it's really important to have those hierarchy of responses in place. And the signage and the posters and the pamphlets are all critical information for resource. And so the bird feeders are a #1 attractant. And so sometimes we have to have folks remove those bird feeders before we can actually haze the coyotes out of the area. Coyotes and fox and many other species are great climbers. Birds fly over fences and canids can climb. So if you've got a fence in your backyard and you're putting your dog out on its own, or your small cat, remember that your dog can also learn how to climb. So you want to look at your refuge. So if you've got hot spots in the city, look at how the garbage is being handled, the roadkill, who do you contact about that, make sure the ordinances are being adhered to, and looking at humane wildlife intervention and removal. And so that map, we use that to assess the hot spots. But the map in and of itself doesn't indicate that many coyotes are in that area, because it's a territory. So those coyotes are moving throughout that territory. So we have to be really careful how we use that information. And so a lot of times, if it's a new location we're getting sightings, we're going to go and investigate that. And it's fantastic because it gives us a snapshot of what's happening in the community. So that is a report that's brought in through the city website. So the final leg of it is the rescue and rehab, of which Elise Abel, as I said, will be able to help. So this coyote came in a backyard to get to the compost, hid in the drum, we're right there, would not get out, we tipped the drum over, and eventually we had to catch noose her and then bring her within the 1 kilometer that we're mandated to do. That stance or gesturing by coyotes is typical, even when they're in captivity. They resign themselves, and at no time at all was she trying to be aggressive and bite or anything. She was pretty scared. And that's just before she was released. And the next one, you can see the plastic jar on the coyote's head. So that was a huge industrial jar, and this wonderful, wonderful gentleman from the biomass facility called us, and that's the Humane Society in Niagara Falls. So that was his first coyote call, and it was pretty amazing. So we had to, it took over an hour to get that jar off the head. But as you can see, there's no, I mean, I have my gloves and I had a blanket, but for the Humane Society officer, you know, we interviewed him after, and we said, how did that change your perception about these animals? And he said, I was so scared. And I'm going up, the coyote has a jar over the head, I'm walking up with my blanket, and I have my daughter filming it because my husband happened to be away, so she's at my truck filming. And, you know, I said, what do you think the coyote's going to do, bite through the jar? But he said it changed his perception, because he assumed for sure that that coyote would have tried to bite one of us once we put her in a cage. She was fine. She did rip a tooth trying to get out of the cage, but we did end up letting her go after about 10 minutes. So it's really important to have this kind of support in the community, because it gives you options. And so you're going to be more willing to help an animal in distress and need. And so the community resources are critical. If you've got walking areas, you know, putting that information out there is really good. And cultivating that nature literacy. But you guys are so far ahead with that, between the school and all your organizations and the volunteers here. I mean, it's just fantastic. And just always communicating and sharing your information. So with the community outreach, you know, you folks are going to go home tonight. You're going to talk to somebody else, and you're going to go out now when you're out engaging in your green spaces where you walk your family pets, and you think about what's in that environment and how you can make it better for the next person coming through there. It's pretty empowering, and it's really important. And so, same thing. The same thing you do in your backyard. You're out on that trail. Look and identify all of those attractants, and remember to, you know, when you're engaging out in wilderness or in the wildlife, or if you're going up to the cottage, whatever you do in that bush area is going to impact another living being. And it could be a human, or it could be a pet. Also, you know, if you're in coyote territory, so you know where they are, you can bring any one of those tools out with you. That plastic bag would be great. And I'm going to read you this, and then I'm kind of done. I'm really, you guys probably are too, you've been so patient. This is about the relationship with coyotes and the land. And so, you know, a lot of times we assume that farmers and ranchers, they are not welcoming carnivores in the landscape. And we have had the opportunity and the blessing of working with so many people that have been doing predator-friendly farming and farming in harmony for so many years. And so I was inspired, one particular gentleman who has had a family farm for years. I kind of wrote this for him because he to me was really a real champion for carnivores in the landscape. And it's called Farmer's Keeper. If you share the land, I will tend to your fields by working hard each and every day, hunting the rodents that consume your crops and seeds. If you share the land, I will raise my family by teaching my children who will teach their children. what it means to be coyote. If you share the land, I will show strength in my songs to encourage others of my kind to move along. If you share the land, I may stumble in my true coyote nature once in a while. I hope in your true nature that you will understand that too. So, coyotes in the landscape are keeping other coyotes out. And they're also helping that farmer by eating those rodents that eat the seeds. And pretty amazing relationships you can see. So, I don't know what to say. You guys have been so patient, wonderful audience. You've been engaging, and it felt good to be up here tonight. And it's been an honor for me and my colleague, Amy and I, to be welcomed in the community. But we're here to help in any way, working in partnership with the experts that are here. Yes, Elise?
Leslie, would you open the floor to questions and concerns?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. And if you want to use the microphone, you can just put your hand up and I'll bring it over to you. Because I don't know about you, but my throat is dry. Is there any questions or something you want to share, an experience that you've had with a coyote?
Oh, my question is there a standard breeding period?
Yes. In the January, February, depending though on the weather, depending on health, it's usually late winter, early spring. We've had some of our families actually breeding late. And so that gestation period, 62 to 63 days, could mean that the pups would be born late April, early May. But that doesn't mean that every year that coyote family is going to be breeding. There's a lot of influences in the environment that can impact that. Good question.
I don't need the mic, but could you offer some insight? We've had a lot of rumors in town about coy wolf and that they're possibly coming this way, even from some avid outdoorsmen and hunters that claim they've seen some really big coyote. Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not really big, and so the genetic hybridization happened over a century ago, and DNA has nothing to do with coexistence. The same issues in every community. They are not more bolder. They're going to show demand behavior if people are feeding them, but so does my dog. So the coy wolf in the beginning, not every researcher uses that terminology. Some say Canis latrans variation, eastern coyote. Some of the states do use the term coy wolf. I know our ministry uses eastern coyote. It's the same animal, and they're not bigger and they're not bolder. They're the same weight. They're a little bit larger than their western counterparts. So eastern wolves, western coyotes mated over a century ago. And this is who we have in the landscape today. And I understand that, why there's rumors and misinformation, but the term coy wolf really infers that they're half wolf, half coyote, and that's just not the case at all. They're mainly western coyotes with a remnant percentage of wolf DNA, which happened many moons ago. Good question. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Who do you contact on Grand Island if you need help with coyotes?
So let's say, are you speaking that it's a sighting or?
Injury?
Oh, well, so, yes, Elise, please.
I understand because I have it again. If you have injured coyotes in your Grand Island, one of the best resources that are close by, the Erie County SPCA has one of the best wildlife centers in all of New York State. And we're very lucky to have them in this area. Sorry, Gene, but the Erie County SPCA would be a great first place to call. Again, the wildlife center is outstanding. I also do wildlife rehabilitation, but usually I do it through the SPCA. They get the phone call, and if they need to refer to me, they come to me. I also work with nuisance wildlife control. If you're having a problem with what you consider nuisance coyotes coming too close to your yard, that's where I can help. And Leslie did a fantastic job of explaining hazing and things, but I've had a little experience that I'd like to share.
Sure.
I've been involved in nuisance wildlife control for years, as well as dog control and rehabilitation. And you would be surprised how neophobic, which means afraid of new things, coyotes are. And I have used, you know, I'm dating myself, but remember the punch balloons? The real heavy balloons that we use at parties, and they come with a little rubber band on them? Those are great. And I say punch balloons because they're made of a much thicker material than regular balloons, so they're going to last longer in the air. And what I do is there you go. I will get those. But what I do sometimes, I've got a modification. You know, you can get those tiny little jingle bells. You can put those inside the balloon, or beads inside the balloon before you inflate it, and they make an even more horrific noise than that. And hung about coyote face high, which isn't this, it's really bad, about 2 feet off the ground, that scares the bejesus out of them. And if they're using your yard as a way to get from point A to point B, and foxes too, this works for foxes, you can hang one of those balloons there, you'll never see that coyote use that area again. And I've also used large, ugly, black garbage bags. When I ran out of balloons, I used the bag they came in to deter coyotes from an area. And I'll do that. And usually you have to consider first why is a coyote coming there? And it's usually, well, I'm not feeding them, but your neighbor might be, or you might be unwittingly. Well, we put pumpkins out for the deer. You know, coyotes love pumpkins. They love stuff. They love birthday cake. I mean, all these crazy things that people put out for other animals, deer, turkeys, and coyotes love vegetation and they love those things. So, you know, you're welcome to call me and we can go through the things that you might be doing and unwittingly attracting coyotes into your yard, not even knowing it. And Leslie's 100% right when she starts at the bird feeder. And we would like to believe it's just birds eating seed, but I've got bad news. All the seed that goes on the ground, rats and mice are eating that too. And rats and mice attract coyotes, foxes, and skunks, and all the other things. So, you know, you create a whole food chain in the backyard. You have to be conscious of that. And you can get my number. I'm on the internet. My name's Elise Abel. And if you just Google Elise Abel, New York, and any species of animal you can think of, I'll probably come up. And you're more than welcome to contact me via email and go through your situation. And we will find a non-lethal, humane, inexpensive solution. There's also a product called Night Guard that a lot of farmers use. I have a friend who's a poultry farmer. He uses this product, $19.95 on the internet, $19.95, and it's solar powered. Night Guard flashes a light continuously during the night that mimics another predator, and coyotes and foxes don't like that. And it's so inexpensive to use. Do you mind if I add just a few more things, Leslie?
No, but one thing about the lights though, coyotes will learn quickly. The human presence is the best because it depends, because each situation is different, but we have found though, the lights have to be accompanied with something else, and on a ranch kind of situation.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you have
Chicken
to.
is on the other side of the light. That's a little too tempting. Yeah. You've got to make other modifications too. Here, just a few more other things that I want. Some people have contacted me, and they'll be walking their dogs in a park or an area, and they're afraid. They're just afraid to go because of the coyotes. And this is what I always tell them, and I hope it's okay, but especially us females, you know, when you're alone, even if you have your dog with you, you can fall victim to a human, you can fall victim to a loose, aggressive dog, very unlikely you'll fall victim to a coyote, extremely, but I would say if you don't feel comfortable walking in the woods or wherever, you know, get bear spray. They sell bear spray, it's a pepper spray online. You can buy it, you can get it. You know what, if anything, it's additional feeling safe. I figured it almost shoots like, forget the little thing of mace, it's not gonna work. Use bear spray. If it's gonna repel a bear, it'll probably work on a human or a nasty dog, or if you need it, a coyote, but you'll never use it on a coyote. You'll use it on a human long before you use it on a coyote. I also wanted to mention real quick, a lot of people are concerned about rabies. Across New York State, in all of 2016, there were only 2 cases of coyotes with rabies. It's extremely low. Versus, I think it was 160 some of raccoons, same number of skunks. There was actually less rabid coyotes than there were rabid horses in New York State. The likelihood that a coyote will have rabies and go after you is extremely remote.
Actually, in Ontario, we pushed over 300 out of all the rabies samples, and it ended up starting with the raccoon. We had a horse, llama, skunk, and we haven't had a canid with, well, actually there was 3 fox, but coyotes no. But we have a highly structured, busy bait program, aerial bait program. So a lot of that, became an issue around Hamilton. But it really is not. I mean, you could get rabies from any warm-blooded mammal. So again, that's another reason having your dog on those extended leashes, you don't know what they're coming in contact with. And they might not show those signs right off the bat. And with the bear spray, you better practice using it once too. Don't expect to know how to use it.
Yeah, practice.
Yeah,
Know
you
how
better
far to
practice.
go. One last comment I want to make, if it's okay. I live in Springfield, New York. I was dog warden in Orchard Park for years. We had an incident in Orchard Park last fall where a woman, I don't know if you saw it on the news, said that her horse was attacked and killed by coyotes. Anybody read that or hear about that? Let me lend you the difference between fact and a news story. It wasn't coyotes until after the news was called and they started doing the story. Before that, when the call came into the police, it was, my horse ran through a fence, he got tangled up. I don't know what happened. What this woman did was she was leaving her horses outside all night, which a lot of people do that in the heat of the summer. They keep the horses in the barn where it's cool and they turn them out at night. That's really not smart. She was using wire fencing, single wire fencing, which is, again, I've seen more horses die from running through wire fencing and getting tangled up than I've ever heard of coyotes hurting a horse. The horse, something scooped the horse ran through the fence, got his leg tangled up, and the horse was screaming because it was tangled. The horse had to be euthanized because the leg was badly broken. There were no coyotes in the area, as far as we know, but there is a black bear in the area, and it was caught on numerous trail cams. I strongly suspect that the black bear, the scent of a black bear, and the black bear walking by is what actually spooked that horse, and it had nothing to do with coyotes. It's just so out of character for coyotes to do that. So I just wanted to add that. That's all.
And you know what, folks? A horse can kill a coyote with one kick, just like a deer can. And so, case in point, there's a lovely couple in the audience. They talked about putting their horse out in the heat of the summer. The issue of domestic dogs running loose, and all it takes is one domestic dog to harass or spook your livestock. And so it's important to know that, once you go out, if you're going to do that, make sure you find out how well behaved the dogs are, and you can always put trail cams up. Any other questions? Yes?
If there's a mated pair of coyotes and one is killed, will the other one mate again?
Some situations they have. We also know the majority of those animals end up being transients and don't mate. They mate for life. There's cases in, thank you folks for coming. Thank you. Thank you. San Francisco, where they actually had another mate, but they do mate for life, when they're left to thrive, right? And so I think each family, you know, whether they would find another mate or not, we have males, that male that was eating the dead deer on the railway track, his mate was killed by the car right near there. And I never saw him with another mate after. Good question. Anybody else?
Because we're running late on time, why don't we just take one more question, and then maybe you can answer some other questions informally. We can communicate afterwards. So.
Yes.
Just want to know, is barring any family units, say if everything's, life's great, no trapping, no hunting, everything's moving smoothly, how big would you say the radius or territory of a unit of coyotes would be?
Excellent question. So coyotes are going to base their territory on food availability, shelter and water, and also infrastructure changes. So some coyotes can thrive on 5 square kilometers, whereas others, and depending. So it used to be the train of thought, in rural scapes, they needed more landscape as opposed to in the city, but it all depends. You know, some, like that Gus and Shy, they had less than 4 kilometers, but they had a golf course right there. So you need to look at what available food sources are there. And if there's an area where there's a lot of rodents, rats, if it's near a garbage facility, or you know, a water treatment plant, then coyotes will be around there. So they might not need as much space. Good question.
Thank you very much. Just 1 second, I just want to wrap things up, and we'll do our drawings as well. There were 3 things I wanted to say really quickly. The first is, I think one of the stories that I found most informative from Leslie is one that she didn't tell tonight, and that is that she had a person who basically said, I hate coyotes. And Leslie's answer was, you don't have to like them. That's not the issue. The issue is you have to recognize that they are essential. They're essential for the environment. They serve a critical purpose. And that purpose may not be something that is consistent with our own anthropocentric views, our own human views. But that's where we run into conflict. The conflicts that exist are human conflicts. They're not wildlife conflicts. Our conflict, Nicole's and mine, in starting this, this process, was one involving trapping right on the edge of our property. And we started a process with a number of other wonderful people who got engaged in this, a legislative process. And it's wonderful to see, by the way, that we had politicians here, would-be politicians, potential politicians. Thank you for coming, because I think this is a critical community issue. But the other thing that I would say is, legislation by itself doesn't solve a problem. There has to be education that goes along with that. We have to get to the point of understanding. And again, we don't have to like specific species. We have to recognize that they're essential. The third thing that I would say is that process itself, the process of making a decision to work with wildlife rather than to work against wildlife, may actually require work, right? It's easy, on one hand, to let your dog off a leash and then blame the circumstances and call for that animal to be killed. But no pun intended, we fall into a trap when we do that, because ultimately the consequence of that is we kill alpha males, we kill alpha females, and we create chaos within that system which was working prior to our investing ourselves into it. And I think we need to think about that very carefully. We need to think about the question of what do we have to contribute in taking responsibility for our own circumstances. And that means our pets. That means our children. That means our backyards. And thinking about how we can contribute in a way that furthers and advances our ecosystem rather than challenging it. So all of Leslie's lessons, I think, are absolutely wonderful, and I want to thank her again for that, as well as all of the other experts that are here tonight. I believe there was an animal control officer from the town of Amherst, is that correct? So thank you so much for coming. I saw on Facebook that you're coming. It's wonderful to know that you're here. Thank you, Elise, so much for coming. Thank you to animal advocates, SPCA as well. Real quickly, Elise mentioned the SPCA. Oh, and also Diane Teedy, from our very own Eco Island here on Grand Island, who has been educating our children about wildlife for generations, and her work is critical to this as well. So thank you so much. We have cards up at the table that list the Erie County SPCA's contact information. If you have any questions at all and want to keep this handy, we made these specifically so that you can put them on your fridge. Take a magnet, take a pin. We have coyote cans to shake. We have 2 balloons left, so help yourselves to those. And you're going to do the drawing, Nicole?
Well, I was going to ask, did everyone get an opportunity to get a card, I guess? Do you want to, Josh, Caitlin, do you want to grab some cards?
Caitlin, do you want to grab cards and just pass out? I know we have a limited number.
For folks who are still here and didn't get a card,
Because you could get something.
there's an opportunity. Did everyone get a card? I didn't get a card. You didn't get a card?
Caitlin, the cards are on the table.
No, sorry. Because what the cards are for is Dave was saying, on the front, coyote coexistence tips, right? Everything that Leslie was speaking about, has the Erie County SPCA. It has the Erie County SPCA's phone number on there. So if you have any questions or concerns about coyotes, but any wildlife that you want answers to or help with, Erie County SPCA is there. Dave and I are volunteers with the Wildlife Department of the SPCA. We're learning as we go, so we're going to be a resource on Grand Island for people who live on Grand Island. So for folks who have questions or concerns, the websites are on the back of those cards as well. Caitlin's coming in with the cards. Caitlin's going to raise your hand. Because on the back of the cards where the logos are for the organizations, you're going to see a number at the bottom corner there. And that number is, we're going to have Leslie call out some random numbers. There'll be 2 numbers that you get between 1 and...
Okay.
You gotta wait.
Caitlin's handing out. So, and your opportunity to win would be, we have 2 copies of Coyote America. This came out just recently last year. It's a great book. It gives you a lot of insight on the history of coyotes. They've been around for centuries, and for folks who are saying...
Place to see.
Yeah, and for folks who said, this is the first time I've ever seen a coyote in my backyard, well, in some way, shape, or form, they are working their way all across the United States, Canada, and this book does a great job of telling the history of coyotes. It's called Coyote America. So